Hello, everyone. This is my 7-round NFL mock draft for the Cincinnati Bengals using PFF's mock draft simulator. A few notes before we begin. First of all, this is what I would do if I was the actual GM for the Cincinnati Bengals. This is no way a prediction of what will actually happen. That's way too difficult, and I don't know, you don't know. No one knows exactly what's going to happen until it actually has happened in regards to the NFL draft. Second note is that you might hear me mentioning PFF, Pro Football Focus, a lot. I hold them in really high regard. I agree with about 80 or 75% of their analysis. So you'll hear me quoting or referencing them quite often, potentially. And then number 3, in this mock draft, you might see a player that you think is I've taken way too highly, or you think he's slid and there's no way he's going to be there. Well, once again, that goes back with predicting what's going to happen. You don't know exactly what's going to happen. A couple of years ago, no one would have thought that Brady Quinn would have slipped to like the 23rd pick in that draft. People thought he was going top 5. Like, that was almost pretty much a consensus, and that didn't happen at all. Or go all the way back to the 2005 draft with Aaron Rodgers, slips all the way to number 24th, going to, of course, the Green Bay Packers. And the number of people that would have predicted that before that draft are about 0 on the planet, okay? So don't tell me that you know exactly where a player is going. Okay, anyway, moving on. Almost 2 minutes in. So number 1, of course, I take Joe Burrow, quarterback, LSU. Yeah, I don't know what more I can say about him. He's really accurate. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but he's super accurate. Excuse me. I'm having difficulty talking today and speaking. He led the LSU Tigers to a national championship, a lot of pressure to succeed, and he performed at the highest levels in the biggest games very well. And he's accurate. He graded extremely well under PFF's grades. Universally, almost, he's liked. The only way that I would do anything else as the Bengals is if something like the Miami Dolphins decided to give us their 1, their 18, their 27, 37, or 39. Sorry. Basically, their first 3 picks in this year's draft along with their second this year. And then if they gave another pick on top of that, and I think it's super unlikely that they would give up that much just to move up to the number 1 slot. If the Dolphins were willing to give you that huge trade, I'd consider it, but it'd still be difficult to move on from Burrow or trade out of that place. Okay, next we have at 49, I take Cameron Dantzler, cornerback, Mississippi State. I like him a fair bit. His tape is pretty good. He produced in the SEC conference. That's a really tough conference. If you're a cornerback and you do well in the SEC conference in college football, and more than likely you're going to translate. I'm not saying there's any guarantee. Of course, there's no guarantee with anyone in a draft. They can get injured and bam, their career's derailed and they never recover. But anyway, I think he's, for this slot, 49. They could use some coverage help. I know they signed a couple of players in free agency, but I don't think they move the needle very much. I'm okay with this pick. It's not the greatest, but I certainly think you can do much worse than this. And then moving on to pick number 65, I took Jonah Jackson, offensive guard from Ohio State University. I like him quite a bit. I agree with PFF. I think he's one of the best, if not the best, guard prospect in this draft. Getting him at number 65 is a pretty solid value. There's a lot of depth of depth in this draft for guards, interior linemen, but getting the best one or about the best one at number 65. The Bengals need line help, of course, so I think that's a good pickup there. Number 77, I took another offensive lineman, Jack Driscoll, offensive tackle from Auburn University. I really, really, really like this guy. He just, pass rushers just don't beat him. Look at his tape. Look at it. He doesn't get, I'm not saying he gave up zero pressures ever, but he doesn't give up a lot of pressure. He's really, really rock solid. The risk with him is that he's not really a move tackle. Like when you see him pulling, he's pretty slow. He's actually quite slow. So there's that for risk. And of course, he's not being universally graded as this amazing prospect. But for my money, what he showed on tape, he's really, really rock solid. And he's a right tackle. You're going to have Jonah Williams at left tackle. That's going to really help solidify that line and help Burrow a lot. At 102, I took Antonio Gandy Golden, wide receiver from Liberty University. I'm up and down with him. I wanted to take a wide receiver or some kind of offensive impact player to help Joe Burrow at this point. He was the best available guy. I don't love this pick again. I think it's a solid pick there, but it's not great. You could maybe go with someone else like Van Jefferson, University of Florida wide receiver, or even maybe Devin Duvernay, Texas wide receiver. There's a couple of options that will be available at 102. I think Gandy Golden he's solid. He wins with inside routes, things like slants and, not crosses, but post routes, excuse me. Those are the routes that he'll win at. He does well at beating press man coverage. He does at least decent with that. So I think overall he's a solid player and worth a shot. At 107, I took Damian Lewis, guard, LSU University. There's a theme here. Offense and line. I'm pretty sure that the reason I took him here was there was like no one even close to taking at other positions. So I'm like, screw it. I guess I'll take another lineman. I like him a lot. At least stylistically, he's different than Jonah Jackson. He's more of a power guy. So at least you get a different type of guard there. Taking two guards in the top 110 is, I normally really wouldn't advise it, but the Bengals, you have a pretty bad line. So I think it's decent, but if I were to do this mock over, I'd probably change a bit, but anyway, let's move on. 147, I take one of my favorite picks in this entire draft, Kenny Robinson Jr., safety, West Virginia University / XFL St. Louis Battlehawks. Love this guy. His tape against Oklahoma and Kyler Murray, up and down, very up and down. Makes an interception in the end zone, then misses a bunch of tackles. Just makes a great play, makes a bad play, makes a great play, makes a bad play. He's risky, of course, but at 147, you're not going to see his type of talent anywhere close. This is taking a risk, taking a chance on a guy, but the talent is far, far higher than this 147 draft slot. He's a top 50 guy. I mean, people make fun of PFF, Eric Eager and George. I can't pronounce your name. George and Eric's analytics mock. They took him in the top 32 in their latest one. So you can see this guy. There's something to him. Of course, the background on him and the risk of what he's done. So that's why he's gonna probably slip. But 147, you could do a way worse, and these guys are almost equivalent to undrafted free agents. Their talent wise, you can pick up a guy at 150, 200 that is gonna produce worse than undrafted free agents. Sorry, I can't talk today. Happens all the time. So this talent at this spot in the draft, very good. Then moving on, at 180, I took Reggie Robinson, the second cornerback, Tulsa University. I really like this guy as well. He's got good prototypical size and speed. His tape is at least average. So, I mean, if this guy's tape was really amazing, he'd be a top 100 player. But because his tape is, I don't think it's bad in any regard, but it's not flashy. You're not, you're not seeing, whoa, he doesn't pop off, but he's a guy that I think can at least add some depth. And you can never go wrong, I think, with taking wide receivers, taking cornerbacks. Those two positions, I think, are really important in the modern NFL game. And then finally, at 215, I have John Pinacini, I believe is how you say his last name. And he's an interior defensive lineman out of the University of Utah. I don't think he's that much worse than Leki Fotu, the other defensive tackle. I think he's really stout player. He's not really going to give you much for pass rush, I don't think. Haven't seen much, but he's a guy that's going to go in the 200s or around there, and I think he can. I think he's a replacement level player. I think he's average, and getting that in that spot is, you're doing well. You're doing well. Okay, and then I want to wrap this up with a couple of trades that I made. I don't know how realistic some of these trades are because I want to note that in the PFF Mock Draft Simulator, I do think that they were, how do I say it, generous with what teams would give up to move up. If you look at the history of draft trades, when teams trade up, they usually don't give up a ton of picks unless it's in the top 5, top 10, and the team's going after a quarterback. Then you can get some pretty nice hauls. But beyond that, they don't really give up that much. So some of these trades might be a bit unrealistic. But who knows exactly. So the first trade was Denver jumped up to number 33. They gave Cincinnati the 46th and 77th pick. I think that's a little unrealistic because to drop back about 15 spots there in the second round from the early to the late second round, from the early to the middle second round, I think they'd only have to give up maybe a third round about maybe the 100th pick or somewhere in there. So 77 is a bit rich. It might happen because it's the top of the second round and there's a day in between. I think there's a much higher chance that at least one team would be interested. Are they going to get the 77th overall pick? I can't predict that exactly, but I think they get something fairly similar, maybe some in the 80 or 90 range. So, okay. And then the second trade that I did was Pittsburgh moved up to 46, and they gave up the 49th and 102nd. That one I can say right away is they're not giving 102 to move up 3 spots in the middle to late second round. They're just not doing that. I think it would have been more realistic to give up something like a 5th round, like maybe 125, 150, 175, somewhere in that range would be more realistic if any team did want to move up. So overall, I do think the Bengals, there is opportunity for them to move up in this, to trade back in this draft because they have the number 1 pick in all of the 7 rounds. So in at least one of them, especially because there's days in between some of these rounds now, I think they can trade back. Just number 1 with Burrow, you shouldn't trade back unless someone just throws everything at you. So, okay, well, it's been 15 minutes, a bit longer than I wanted to go, but thank you very much if you've been here the entire time. I really seriously do appreciate this. These are my first few couple of videos I'm putting up on YouTube, and I'm getting like 0 views. So if you make it all the way through, I'd come to your door and shake your hand, sir, or lady, whoever it might be. So, okay, well, thank you very much, and you have a wonderful day.